it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel, and today I have a lovely, juicy reading on messages from your spirit guides. So I've got 3 piles here, pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3. I'll put the picture up for you to take a look at. You can be drawn to one pile, maybe you're drawn to more piles, keeping in mind that sometimes how you get drawn into your pile can be a message in and of itself. So I'll put that up now, and I will see you at your reading. So pile number 1, what messages do we have here from your spirit guides? Okay, so I'm hearing so many things. I'm hearing trust yourself. You are so special. You are so skilled. I feel like you might have a lot of people pulling on your energy, or a lot of people who rely on you for things. But I also feel like this could potentially be a group that is like underappreciated or undervalued in some way. So maybe you feel like you're not making as much money as you should be making, or like just people aren't valuing what it is that you bring to the table. And I can see no matter what it is that you do here, pile number 1, you bring your full self to the table. Like I'm kind of picturing like there's a job description, and it doesn't have to literally be a job, but it's like there's a job description, there's something that you're like supposed to do on paper, but you consistently bring a lot more than that to the table. You bring your full self to everything that you do. I feel like you're an incredibly intelligent person here with the King of Swords, and some of you may be professionals in something, or like decision makers in something, or like you're good with management. Even if you're not a manager for a living, I feel like you're good with management. This is like time management, or you're good at like picking up on things, and some of you can get really quick results here for certain things. But again, I feel like you're being underpaid or you're being undervalued, and Spirit just wants to remind you that you really are special, and that a lot of people are pulling on your energy. Spirit wants to remind you to like revitalize, prioritize, like take care of yourself, spend some time alone. For some of you, if you can get out by some water, I feel like you probably love the water, or like there might be a special place that you like to go, and it looks natural to me. Or like some of you maybe just even sit out like under the stars, like at night. I just heard you've forgotten how much you love to do that. Like even if it's just like on your deck or something, just to get some fresh air. There's a lot of just reflective energy here, but I feel like some of you, it's like, this is very like rejuvenating, replenishing energy. And I'm hearing like, don't forget to light your own flame. What lights your fire here? And I feel like some of you have been observing somebody or something that is kind of, it's meant to light your fire. Maybe this person has like tends to their own fire. It could, if it's a person, right, then I feel like you're attracted to this person. This is, a Queen of Wands. They are charismatic. They are just juicy. I feel like this person just has come alive. They're interesting and different, But if this is like something that it's like a creative spark, then I feel like this is something that just, it's a wish fulfillment. It really gets you going. It could be like a creative project or something here, but it's just meant to kind of turn your flame on. I'm just hearing, come on, baby, light my fire. So I just feel like I'm hearing protect your fire, or just like reconnect with that space. And I'm strongly feeling like the lower chakras up to your solar plexus chakras, like all of those things, just reconnecting with that. I feel like you might spend a lot of time in your head, and that might be because you have to, like during your day, you have a lot that you have to plan for, decide for, it's like very cerebral kind of an energy. I'm also getting like your guides are with you. They just want you to know that. Yeah, they really are with you. I think, what are these called? Avids? What's a crow called? They're really cool kinds of birds. It's like a avid, a cavid. Where's Alex? They're really interesting birds, and I feel like you might want to look up what group or like family crows belong to, and then like connect with that. Or just like birds of flight. Like, I don't know, I feel like you really connect with like winged energy. And again, winged energy is kind of like a solitary creature. You can see from a distance, but you might actually have to go alone. I think a lot of you feel misunderstood a lot of the time, but it's because, I don't know, I kind of think that you're elevated, like you're really smart, you're really intelligent, and I think that makes you a leader, like, but in function. It's like people kind of look to you as a leader in function, but I think sometimes you can get so lost in like the minutia of life, your goals and your job and the doing things, like the things of the world and everything that's needed to do, that you forget to just replenish and rest and rejuvenate yourself. Because I think like once you start valuing yourself more, like making yourself a priority in your own schedule, other people are going to start valuing you more too, you know? Because I feel like, yeah, you just feel like you're always showing up for people, but it's not recognized. And Spirit is also wanting you to feel like this with the Hierophant. The Hierophant can be like an elevated perspective. It's somebody who listens directly to Spirit, and he looks so joyful and happy. Spirit wants you to be able to kind of live what it is that you give to other people. And I think to do that, you just kind of need to like rest and relax. And some of you need to heal, because I think some of you, I'm hearing like the moths gather around the flame. So some of you have like really attracted like sycophantic energy to you. Either there's like one main person, and it might be somebody that you've been married to, or this could be somebody who is like a leader or like respected, but they're like more traditional, like more of a traditional type, and you maybe feel like you have to follow their orders. This could be a boss or something, but you have that sycophantic energy, and it's kind of like drained you dry, and it's just important for you to heal from that. And that's what's going to change this Page of Pentacles. But I feel like the internal image that you have of yourself just isn't correct, you know, like to the image that other people have of you, but also the way that Spirit sees you, because you think of yourself as the Page of Pentacles. And I know for myself, it's like when I start eating bad and I forget to like, you know, get outside or get moving, a lot of times I will feel like this. And then the second that I have like a healthy meal or something, I just feel so much better. So also just making sure that you're prioritizing, like making sure that you're nourishing your body, you know, and again, taking care of yourself. And also I just looked at her hair and like the braid in it. So also maybe do something nice for yourself, like braid your hair, or go get a hair treatment, or just get out to the beach, have casual like relaxing time. I feel like some of you are like, but when? I don't know. But then also I'm noticing the static here, and then the pyramid structure, right? Which is kind of like insulating this flame. So it's like the pyramid is one layer of protection. It's like the hard shell, but then the fuzzies are another layer of protection. So you don't have to tell people exactly what it is that you're doing. Or I don't know, like you can add a layer of like mystery or confusion. Just, I feel like now is a good time to spend some time alone. And I heard a little bit goes a long way, but don't let that like stop you. Don't just do a little bit and then think, oh, I'm like full up. Keep prioritizing it. Keep like making it a part of your day, a part of your routine, and also get some rest and spend some time at home. Or I'm also hearing like a bed and breakfast or like an Airbnb. A bed and breakfast might be good for you. Like if you can just get yourself away, take yourself on a little staycation, because then somebody will also make you a breakfast. And don't worry about people judging you, or somebody may have tried to judge you here recently. But this person feels like that on the inside. They feel like the Page of Pentacles, or this could be multiple people, to be honest. They feel like this on the inside, and they have had unfair, unrealistic expectations. I'm also hearing this person, if somebody's giving you trouble at work, it's like this person I think may not have management experience, so they have unrealistic expectations as to what it is that you should be doing. Like this person's holding you to unrealistic standards, and they don't kind of realize how pie in the sky it is, or just how draining that would be. Like I think they have some kind of utopian vision, and it's like, yeah, well, everything should be like this, but it's like, you know, you're just one person and you're a cog in the wheel just like everybody else, and this person just kind of doesn't get it. Yeah, there's something here with pyramids, like the pyramid structure, hierarchies or something like that. But yeah, and I just feel like you're an independent, solitary person, and that's something to be honored. Like don't feel like you have to try to schmooze or be an extrovert if you just need to spend time alone. These are like very, I'm an independent, solitary creature kind of vibe. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, you kind of, I'm getting like you kind of lose yourself in the party scene. Like that's not what you need to rejuvenate, but I'm also not really getting a partying kind of like flavor from this. I don't even know. So yeah, let me just get some messages for what you should lean towards and what you should lean away from, and we will call that a day. So what should pile number 1 lean towards? I literally just saw the Hermit again. Yeah. I feel like there's some kind of like solar plexus energy healing. Seek solitude to focus intently on your inner life serves your own personal creativity. I knew it. And I feel like Spirit's trying to give you an inspiration or give you an example as to like how to do this, how to live from the inside out. Okay, yeah, victim energy prevents you from letting yourself be victimized if somebody has come at you here. Or preventing you from victimizing others. I'm not really getting that you're victimizing others. I think that this strikes me as like a rescuer pile where because you're skilled and because you're strong on your own, a lot of people they just assume your energy. They just assume your assistance. They just try to take from you instead of asking. And if you say no, then they get offended or they think that you're being selfish, but they forget. I feel like you need to kind of learn how to take this as a compliment. Not that you still don't say no and have boundaries, but it's like people almost forget that you're human sometimes. Yeah, if somebody came at you here, I feel like they were playing the victim for positive feedback, and this is testing your ability to maintain boundaries. I'm just heard boundaries are an important part of self-care to maintain like your own personal flame here. So what should you lead away from? Okay, people who are childish is what I'm getting. Tendency to abuse animals, people, and the environment. Somebody here is, and they might well be a child or like very young or just don't not have a lot of life experience, and they want to act like they're sweet or something, but like it always creeps me out the way she's holding that bunny. I don't really like it. It doesn't look comfortable. Okay, what else should you lean away from? Okay, shapeshifter, projecting any image that serves your personal agenda in the moment. And also people who do this, leaning away from people who do this. I also feel like you're supposed to lean away from seeing the potential in everything, because I think you might be one of those people that like sees potential in others, and you treat them as if they're already there, which is beautiful and it's aspirational in a lot of ways. But you kind of have to deal with the reality of people, especially if you have like this amount of like pressure on you and potentially people pulling on your energy. And I'm also hearing lean away from advocating people when you're not advocating for yourself. Like always make sure that you're advocating for yourself. And yeah, I'm hearing heal thyself. Passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind, and spirit. I'm just really getting some of you guys need some like rest and rejuvenation. I mean, who doesn't, right? Yeah, so Spirit's just really wanting to encourage you to believe in yourself, to take care of yourself. I kind of feel like taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally will go a long way in just clearing up the image that you have of yourself and just getting that in alignment with reality, because I feel like people do look on you really highly. I think it might be the cause of a lot of your problems, like a lot of your stress or a lot of your like tiredness, is that people do look upon you highly. I think you always feel like you're falling short, but I think other people always think that you're great and like you're skilled and that you are showing up in some way. So just be a little easier on yourself. Don't forget to fill up your own cup first here, pile number 1. And some of you may want to have a conversation with somebody about like pay, of like, this is not really a fair exchange, or maybe even getting a promotion, because I just feel like you do more than you are being asked to do, whether that's around the house or just, I feel like you're that person who just brings your full self to stuff. So anyways, that's what I have for you guys, pile number 1. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I can tell that you're lovely people. You're the kind of people I want to have around here. All right, bye guys. pile number 2. I am re-recording this. Sometimes that happens. I just want to take another crack at trying to describe everything that I'm seeing going on here in these cards in a clear, efficient, concise manner, because there's a lot going on here in this pile. And the reason there's so much going on here, A, is because there is karma playing out. You yourself, I mean, other people here probably are learning their karmic lessons too. We're not going to worry about them. We're going to focus on you because you're the one here. You're definitely learning some kind of karmic lesson. That lesson is yours for you to kind of parse through and for you to learn. So I'm not meant to come in here and just kind of, oh, like A leads to B leads to C. I physically, literally cannot do that because of the nature of what is going on here, okay? But also, there's a lot going on because the nature of this situation itself, at least at this stage in the game, is that it is complex, okay? I think there's a lot of variables involved, a lot of moving parts, potentially a lot of people here, right? It's complex, it's confusing, and I think frustrating here at times at this stage in the game that is a property of this situation. And we just kind of have to do the best that we can. So I'm going to try doing that. If you can throw me a couple bucks, if you're getting a lot out of this particular reading, this is one that I've put a lot of extra time into, just trying to structure my thoughts. And obviously I'm re-recording it a second time. If you can't, no worries. But if you can, this is definitely one where it would be appreciated. So, okay. Moving into this, what do your guides want to talk to you about? What do they want to tell you? Okay, so your guides here definitely want to address a particular situation, and I think you know exactly what this is. I feel like this situation has been heavily on your mind, but also this has been a long-term situation on the scale of like years here. And there is a reference here to a 2-year time period and potentially 2-year time periods. I'm not entirely sure how all of this plays out, but I think here, there's like a moment in time here where something kicked off, okay? I don't think I mean that this is the beginning of your relationship with this person, but it could be. I'm really not getting that though. I think there was an inception here of this karmic lesson where everything kind of went wrong, okay? And I think you know that this moment happened, even if for some of you, you can't pinpoint exactly when that moment was and what caused everything to kind of derail, because I can see that you've got a lot of confusion here in the situation. But given how the situation's unfolded, I think you realize that there was a moment in time here where everything just kind of went off of the rails. Then immediately following that, I think there was like, I'm kind of getting that there was like a 6 months to a 2-year grace period that you had where you could have interacted here in this space. I'm not saying it would have worked, okay? Because like I said, there's karma playing out here. So you kind of need to be bringing your best self. You need to not be playing any games. You need to be putting your best foot forward, right? But you could have in some way engaged or interacted in this space to correct the situation, or to attempt to, but there was that kind of like flex period. Then once that period closed, and for some of you, it hasn't yet, okay? But once that period closed, then some of you went and then the debriefing period kind of starts. For some of you, I think you maybe moved on with your life, but this is something that you would have revisited later. But for some of you, you went directly into this kind of like debriefing period where you're just, I think this was a deeply impactful situation on you, like emotionally. You could have lost somebody very important to you, like a soulmate kind of connection, something like that. Or I think psychologically, this was just somehow like profoundly impactful, and you also are very confused when it comes to the situation. You're trying to sort this out. You're trying to kind of like figure this out. You want to know what happened and where things kind of like went wrong here. And I don't know where you're at in the cycle. Everybody's at a different place, okay? But regardless of where you're at, your guides are wanting to come in here and kind of like clear up some confusion and help you interact in this space, okay? So the first thing that they want you to know is that all of this karma and all of the learning that's going on here is unfolding for your highest and greatest good, okay? They want to reassure you of that because I think there is so much confusion here, and I think you really are wondering, like, why did you have to go through this? What is the point of this? Why did things happen the way that they happened? So all of this is, it's kind of like they created, this situation is like a classroom, but it's an interactive classroom, okay? So you're learning by doing. You're very much, I used to work in a toddler room, and that's what I'm seeing here. It's like, you need to be putting things in your mouth. You need to be pushing the other kids. You need to be kind of like grunting because you don't know words yet, This is a very like kind of interactive space, and you're learning very much by doing, okay? Which is, again, why it's like, nobody's supposed to kind of come in here and tell you like A equals B equals C, right? Like, That's how you're learning. And the purpose of this, from their perspective, is to elevate your perspective here about the situation. So you might think, oh, well, I'm supposed to, end up with this person, or I'm supposed to have this outcome or that outcome. They're saying their primary goal in this situation, regardless of how it turns out, because there's several ways I think this could have turned out. But their primary goal here is to elevate your perspective here through going through this experience. And part of the way that you're doing that is, and this is where it gets kind of confusing, because when I filmed this the first time, I was like, well, your guides want to tell you that you're not confused, okay? And it's true, but it's not true, because I can very much see here that you are actually confused. But what I meant by that is the situation itself inherently is not confusing when you have the truth and you don't. Right? That's what they're saying. You don't have the truth here of this situation. That's why it's confusing. Okay? And so what I mean is, this situation actually makes total sense. When you have the truth of the whole situation, right? When you know everything that's kind of like gone on here, it makes total sense. Also, when you have the full truth of all the people that were potentially involved here, either primarily involved, you and this other person, or like on the tertiary, when you have the truth of all of these people involved, it also makes sense. Why people behave the way that they did, why things turned out the way that they did. So you'll know that you have started to elevate your perspective here in this situation when you start having those aha moments. And it's like, oh, okay, I see that. I'm not saying you're going to agree or say that, oh yeah, I would have done the same thing. I'm not saying that. Okay. But I'm saying you can, when you start putting yourself in other people's shoes, you can say, that makes sense. Okay. Maybe I would have done the same thing. Maybe I wouldn't have, but it actually does make sense why you did what it is that you did. So, because I think you're looking at this situation very much through your own lens. So it's like when you start stepping out and kind of putting yourself in other people's shoes and kind of understanding how they're operating, then this is going to kind of start, making more sense. That's how you're going to know that you're elevating your perspective here in this situation. Okay. So that's kind of the point of all of this. And there's so much to be learned here, because I think for a lot of you, there's a lot of people involved, and it's learning about yourself, and this is great, right? Even though it probably doesn't feel great. Okay. So, like I was saying, I feel like there's multiple people involved. For most of you, I think there's anywhere from 3 to 7 people. Now, when I'm saying that, if this is like a love situation, I'm not saying that there was like 6 other direct competitors. I'm not saying that. Now, maybe for some of you there is, okay? But for most of you, that's not what I'm saying at all, okay? What I mean by there could be that potentially like many other people involved here in this space. This could be like tertiary characters. This could be like the best friend that has a horrible perspective and is giving bad advice in this situation because of, something, or you get what I'm saying? Like there could be just other people that are involved, okay? Now the thing to know about everybody that's involved in this situation, this person you're asking about, because I think there's a primary person here that you're asking about, including that person and including yourself, okay? And including all these tertiary characters, the thing to know is that everybody involved here has something about them that is hidden, that is playing a major role here. It's carrying a lot of weight, and it's having a major influence as to how things turned out here, okay? Now that could be a hidden motive, okay? And we've already talked about that. And when I'm saying hidden motive, that can be kind of an inflammatory term. Try to like pull back here from the space. Try to not be so charged or not take things so personally, right? Try to like take a lighter grip on this. Try to hear everything that I'm saying through a neutral lens, because hidden motive doesn't have to be inflammatory, okay? It doesn't have to mean that somebody is nefarious. Now, somebody here certainly could have been nefarious, okay, in terms of what their hidden motive is. And what I mean by that is that they could have been very selfish. Okay, so somebody who's nefarious or evil, in my opinion, this is just an extremely selfish person who just wants what they want out of the situation. They have no empathy. They don't give a second thought to what other people might need or their sensitivities or how something could affect them. They just want what they want. Somebody here, or multiple people here even, could have been nefarious in their hidden motive. Doesn't have to be the case, right? A hidden motive could be, I want to keep myself safe here in the situation. So I'm going to engage, but I'm also going to make sure I'm keeping myself safe, but I'm not just going to walk right up to a person and be like, you scare the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? So again, look at it that way, right? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a motive. What's hidden here could be some other kind of a variable, right? Like somebody going through an extremely hard thing behind the scenes that you know nothing about, like maybe they lost their house in a tornado or something. I don't know, something like that. It also could be a mental health thing. Like somebody could have severe anxiety. Somebody here could have a mood disorder. Somebody here could have like Asperger's or feel like they socially kind of awkward. I don't know, but it's a major, like it's a hidden variable, and it's having a major weight on how things have played out here. Everyone involved. Okay. So when you look through that perspective, that's going to give you a lot to play with here in terms of understanding what went on. And this is meant, I think, for everybody involved on one level or another. It's meant to highlight a functioning dysfunction. It's meant to help you do that shadow work to kind of bring those hidden motives up to consciousness. But we're not going to focus on everybody else's karma. Like I said, we're just focusing on yours because you're the one here. You're the one that's doing the work right now, right? So that is like what we're, right? But there's a functioning dysfunction here, okay? So whatever happened here in this situation, you thought you knew. Okay, you thought you had the truth here overall. You thought you had the lay of the land. You thought you knew who was who, what was what. There's a tree over there. There's a landslide over there, right? You thought you knew. And you thought you knew everybody involved in the situation. You thought you had their cards. You thought you knew what you were dealing with, okay? So when you did that, based on like kind of creating the landscape, you formed some kind of a strategy here as to how to go about getting what it is that you want. Again, this isn't necessarily nefarious, right? When I know the lay of the land and I know the gas station opens at 6 a.m., I know I can stop and get a coffee on my way to work. I know the lay of the land. I made my strategy, executed my strategy. It wasn't nefarious at all. You see what I'm saying? So that's what happened. You thought you knew something. You thought you knew everything. You formed a strategy, and then you, bam, you ran straight into the blockage. And what is this blockage? Is karma, baby. This blockage, this is your karma. This is your lesson, okay? They say the obstacle is the way. That is what is going on here. But also the blockage you ran into was also, it has something to do with these hidden variables or these hidden motives at play that kind of concocted this hidden variable in some way here as well, right? Okay. And it could have been happening at a time when your own hidden variable or your own hidden motive was active. Like if you do have extreme anxiety or if you did have a hidden motive here, when you have a hidden motive, right? It's just like a predator. The eyes narrow. Right? You're focused. Notice this in yourself. Whenever you're really focused, the eyes narrow. And the wide perspective where you can kind of see further out your peripheries, that goes away, right? Everything kind of narrows. And it has a way of making you stupid. If you use it, not you only, all of us, it has a way of making you stupid when you apply it consistently and when you apply it in the wrong moments where actually you need to be taking you need to be using the peripheral vision. You get what I'm saying? So either you had a hidden variable within yourself, it made you narrow that vision, so you didn't have the full perspective. I feel like you get what I'm saying, right? So it kind of like you drowned out a lot of information here, but there's a lesson here, right? And learning this lesson, I feel like, again, you ran right into this blockage, so something slowed down, or all of a sudden there was this blockage or obstacle that was created. Some of you could be dealing with coldness or frigidity. Some of you even could potentially be dealing with like an authority here, right? But the obstacle is the way. And I don't mean to like push over anybody's boundaries here. Like you need to be kind of honoring this. But what I mean is that it's not telling you, just because there's a blockage or an obstacle here, it's not telling you to give up. Okay. But it's saying, and some of you may, this is confusing. Okay. Because some of you need to, if somebody told you to leave them alone, you need to let that person go. You need to be honoring the boundaries that are set here. Okay. But when I say the obstacle is the way, is like, I think that you're confused about what this blockage is and you're trying to understand it. And it pushes the journey actually inside your own mind. That's what your guides want you to know. Because I think this is a group where your modus operandi, your way of dealing with things, I think they're actually very capable in the material world. And I think that's part of what's confusing you here. So whenever something goes wrong, it's like you look out and your vision, like you look out at the other people that are involved in this situation and the lay of the land, and you come up with your strategy and you enact that. But I don't think there's a lot of like looking at yourself involved in this situation, and your own behavior here in some way has affected this situation in a way that I don't think you understand, and potentially a hidden variable about yourself has affected things in the way you don't understand. So this is kind of taking this inside of your own mind, right? Because the quote, this is problems can't be solved on the level of consciousness that created them, Albert Einstein. So it's something here about the way that you usually interact. Again, seeing people enacting a strategy, that's what kind of has caused things to go wrong here. So Spirit is wanting you to go inside your own mind, okay, and start this kind of process of self-inquiry. This is what this is about. This is starting on kind of a lighter level, right? Like, well, ask yourself, okay, because you become kind of a Rosetta Stone here, because everybody involved in this, remember I said, has a hidden motive, including yourself. So you figuring out yourself, figuring out what your own hidden motive is, becomes like the Rosetta Stone here in this situation. It becomes the foundation by which then you can actually look at the situation with new eyes. And then you're going to start to go, oh, and then you're going to know kind of like more about the other people involved, and then you can kind of do the same thing for them of like, well, what did you want in this situation, and right. So start with yourself. Start asking yourself, what did you want here in this situation? Why did you want it? What benefit were you, even if you don't say like, well, I wanted this, but what benefits could you potentially have gotten? What tactics did you use? Again, tactics from a neutral perspective. Why did you use those tactics and not other tactics, right? And then allow this to trickle down into a more plutonic space, right? And Pluto rules over things that are hidden and buried. This is what we're talking about when we talk about shadow work. It rules over our fears. It rules over our traumas, right? If you can see something, you're not at your Pluto yet, okay? This situation and you going through this process, it should highlight something here. And I bet you anything, it's going to highlight a hidden fear. For some of you, it may actually unlock a hidden trauma, or a knowledge that maybe you caused a hidden trauma here for some of you, or that was potentially active, or maybe that somebody else was dealing with this behind the scenes and you didn't know. But I think for a lot of you, it's going to unlock some kind of like deep hidden fear. And you're going to realize that you have an indirect way of nursing that fear. Does that make sense? Okay. So all of this, I think it's also going to, I'm hearing the serenity prayer, right? God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that's something that you're learning here in this situation, but they're showing me a ship and like navigating. So like the serenity prayer you can use to navigate this situation. And what I mean by that is that gives us these kind of like two bins, right? Things we can change and things we can't change, okay? Because I can see that it's these two categories that somehow are like very much contributing to your confusion, okay? And let's talk about that, because you do have a lot of confusion here in regards of this. And whenever you think about, like you try to reflect on your confusion, or you try to interact with it in any kind of way, you think to yourself like you just have this kind of like general confusion that blankets everything, to the point of when you think about this situation or when you think about this person, you think about your confusion. You just kind of, well, I'm so confused. I don't know why they said that, or why they did that, or what they meant by that, or I'm so baffled why things turned out the way that they did, okay? But you are not confused in that way, not really, okay? Let me explain what I mean. Remember when I was saying at the beginning how like when you kind of get overwhelmed by certain things here in this situation, you kind of cut out, because it's a frustrating situation. It's very complex. So you kind of like, you can cut out, right? And what I mean is like, you can, I can't remember if I said that or not. I was thinking it. But yeah, I can see in this situation where it's like when you start getting into the introspective work here, which is the point of all of this, that's what your guides need you to be doing in order to like kind of sort this out. It can become overwhelming, because I can see here that that's not natural to this group of people, right? To kind of do that introspective work in order to understand your environment, right? So I think you can get overwhelmed and then you just cut out. When you cut out, you just kind of throw your hands up, and that gives way to this very like two-dimensional sloppy kind of thinking that's like, oh, it's not really that complex, Jess. Like, if this person didn't do this thing, or if they didn't have that perspective, and if they agreed with me on this, or if they made any sense at all, then this situation just wouldn't have turned out the way that it is. It's just not true, okay? It's just not true. There's a lot going on here. There really is, okay? And your confusion, this generalized confusion that you have, this is one of the mechanisms. It's sneaky. This is one of the mechanisms that your mind kind of uses to have you cut off, okay? It's an ego defense mechanism. We spend a lot of time talking about ego and how it works, and that ego deploys certain defensives to protect you. This is protecting you psychologically, okay? And I will explain more about that. I feel like I just edged your confusion up, but just stick with me here, okay? Trust me. Your generalized confusion that kind of blankets everything, that is one of your dominant ego defense mechanisms for this group, okay? And if it were me, I would never, and in this situation or in any other, knowing this about myself, I would never just let myself sit in it ever again. Whenever I had that feeling come up of just, oh, I'm just generally confused, right? It's just no sense can be made out of it. It just blankens everything. I would get very suspicious of myself. And that's the time for shadow work. I would sit there and I would ask kind of probing questions of like, well, wait a second, right? Now, what I'm seeing here, I'm actually seeing that, yes, you are confused, okay? But I'm seeing two specific dominant kinds of confusion. And it doesn't mean that that's the only kinds of confusion. You may discover more, but that's just what's coming through here. That I'm going to name what those specific kinds of confusion are. And I think it's actually going to be really important in terms of like your healing process and you sorting yourself out. So important that if you can grab a pen and paper to write them down or just commit them to memory, because like I said, every time you feel that generalized confusion, you should say no and name the specific kind of confusion that you are feeling in this situation, right? Because when you name the specific kind of confusion, it gives you a starting point. Right? The generalized confusion, well, there's just nothing to be done, right? So it cuts off a line of inquiry. But if you have a specific kind of confusion here, it's going to give you a starting point, okay? But before we get into those specific types here, I need you to understand how much you benefit from taking this stance of generalized confusion. I just need you to know that you're benefiting greatly from this internally and externally, okay? So what I mean is, when you say I'm just confused here, right? It cuts off that self line of inquiry, which means you're not probing. And the reason, remember, that's an ego defense mechanism. What it's protecting you from is if you actually continued that line of inquiry and you didn't cut it off then, you would naturally go down to a place where you're going to question your internal self-image. And we all have one of those. It's always functioning. It's how we relate to ourselves. We tell ourselves, I'm this kind of person, I'm that kind of person, and I'm that kind of person. So you have this internal self-image of who you are in the world, okay? But there's something that's gone on here. There is a way that you behaved or that you sat by while somebody else behaved a certain way that does not align with the kind of person that you were really solid in thinking that you are, okay? And again, we all do this. This is the process of shadow work and kind of like, and I have all the compassion in the world for not wanting to address this within yourself, because it looks to me here like there's ways that you acted that don't really fit your definition of being like a good person or a strong person or an upright person or, you know, I don't know what it specifically is, right? But you're benefiting by this generalized confusion because it's cutting off that internal self-inquiry process so that you don't have to challenge your internal self-image, okay? That's what the ego is designed to do. So you don't have like a personality crisis, you know, in the middle of the workday or something like that, right? Okay? But when we have the time, we do kind of need to be able to do that, because to not do that means you're living in delusion about who it is that you are, right? Now, the same thing happens. I hope this is making sense, and I hope that you're not just thinking that I'm trying to be a bitch, okay? This is shadow work, right? And it's difficult. Whenever our ego defense mechanisms are active, we don't know they're active. Studies show that you can be a full-blown psychotherapist. You can know everything there is to know about ego defense mechanisms. It doesn't help you when yours are active because they operate below conscious awareness. This is why having a healthy family and healthy friends that you trust, not to treat you with kid gloves, you know, but to be honest with you, helps, because they can reflect back when this is going on, right? But you're shutting off that line of inquiry. And the same thing goes on externally, okay? Where when somebody maybe asks you about this situation or asks you about this person or something like that, and you just say, I'm just so confused, right? It cuts off their line of inquiry as well. Because I think if some of you are honest, there's certain things here, you know, you behaved in certain ways that if you answered every question that everybody had, potentially those things could come out about you, and you don't want those things to come out about you, because you know people would question you and be like, well, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do this? And they would hold you accountable in a certain way. If you're being honest, you don't want those questions. You also don't want those questions because you've cut off an internal line of inquiry. And so if another person posits those questions to you and you have to wrestle with a question that you're not prepared to, you don't want to wrestle with, because it's going to challenge your self-identity. It's going to bring up this kind of crisis space. But we don't want to keep kicking that down the road. We want to deal with it when we can, so it's not a complete tower moment like whenever it comes up, right? So that's what I'm saying. I need you to understand that you're benefiting greatly from this generalized stance of confusion, okay? Now, with that in mind, let's move on to these two specific dominant kinds of confusion that I'm picking up on, all right? So the first one is, I want to call this kind of like a maneuvering kind of confusion, okay? Where you kind of say to yourself, like, you were maneuvering, and I think that you are maneuverers here, pile number 2, and I don't even mean that in like a bad way, right? You're strategic. You are dexterous. Like you are, I think when people look at you, they immediately see your intelligence, okay? Some of you are problem solvers for a living, or it's like you're somebody, people think of you as smart. They think of you as intelligent, right? Being able to kind of, right, like maneuver around things. And so it was back to what I was saying at the beginning, where you gathered your lay of the land here of like, okay, this is like what's going on. These are who these people are. This is what's going on here. And then you formed that strategy, right? But when you enacted your strategy, you were expecting a certain response, or you were expecting a certain outcome. And I think you're usually pretty good at this, okay? But then in this situation, it didn't go anywhere near, right? There was a disconnect between the strategy that you formulated, which you're usually pretty good at doing, and the response that you got, okay? And you can't figure out why that is. Now, for a lot of you, I think you've had this experience with this person or in this situation more than once, but you've had it in a way, either it was so extreme or you've had it more than once, where you know it wasn't just a one-off. It wasn't just like an accident. Meaning, there's something here that you did not account for. There's something that exists in reality that in the mental map that you made of the situation, you did not account for. You do not have the truth here. That's what your guides are saying. You don't have the truth here, either about the situation, but I think this is also about people that are involved here in this situation. Right? You, this other primary person, but again, tertiary characters here as well. You don't have the truth. You don't have your finger on reality here. So going through this process of reconciling, what did I get wrong? What have I been leaning on, putting my weight on, building my foundation on in this situation that isn't actually true? Because there's something here. Funny enough, I think this person that you're asking about that you can't understand, I actually think they went through a similar process with you, okay? But it had to do with your hidden variable, you know? So like if this is a romantic situation, it's like usually when people like me, you know, we go to dinner, we have some laughs, they're not cheating on me with anyone else, there's no crazy surprises, you know, like it goes like a certain way, but then it didn't with you. And then I think they had to be like, oh, how do I account for that? And I think that, I don't know how they filled in the blanks here, but I think they felt like they need to protect themselves. They thought that you were being secretive, or you were maneuvering. I think this person could sense that you were maneuvering around, okay? And another thing you need to understand is that you are intelligent, okay? So when you just shut down a problem-solving process, it's weird for people. It's weird for people, okay? They don't buy it. They don't buy it at all. You're so smart, you can figure everything out. But then when it comes to this one situation, you just don't know, and you just don't even start even trying to work it out. People find it weird, even if they can't like piece it together, okay? Yeah, you've demonstrated your intellect somehow here, pile number 2. Okay, so that is the maneuvering confusion, okay? That's the one kind of confusion you have. And there's kind of an admission, you were maneuvering, you did have a strategy. That will probably lead you, if you don't already know what your hidden motive was in the situation. You were trying to achieve something here with this person. Well, what was it? That's kind of leading you to your hidden motive here. Okay, and yeah, you took a strategy to do it. So why was it like kind of not out in the open? That's another thing. Anyways, okay, so that brings me to the second kind of like specific dominant kind of confusion. We've already touched on it a little bit, but this is a confusion of the self, okay? You have a confusion here about yourself and about how you operate internally, or again, what your own hidden motive was, or you know, this is what I'm talking about, is like lighting up that inner world and connecting yourself with the outer world. Because I think you have such a focus on the external world, other people, and the landscape. And this is a functioning wave, functioning dysfunction. You're usually pretty good at navigating here, but you yourself are a variable here in the situation that you're not factoring in. And I do think that your behavior or something here, that's what you're not looking at. And that's what actually played a big role here. As well, okay? So it's confusion of the self and how the self operates. Those are the two main confusions: maneuvering confusion and a lack of insight into the self-inquiry, self-awareness. And that it is because you're defensive as well here. Psychologically defensive, that's the ego, that's the spiritual condition, right? That's what all the masters talk about. We all take this kind of position until you become aware of it, right? Okay, so that brings us back up here to these two categories that I was talking about earlier from the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? And these two bins of things I can change in the situation and things that I can't change, because that's very much affecting the confusion about yourself and the maneuvering confusion. It's because you've got the wrong things in the wrong bins up here. Somehow that's involved. You've got the wrong things in the things you can change and the wrong things in the things you can't change bin, okay? And changing that is not something you can just do overnight. Okay, this is something that's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take some commitment here. It's going to take some self-reflection, right? And it's also going to take some philosophizing. And this can actually be a really fun, it doesn't have to be work, okay? Like this can actually be a really fun, very fulfilling, especially if you have an interest in philosophy or human behavior or anything like that, right? This can be really, really fun to really go through and kind of ask yourself, well, can you actually change that, about a person or about yourself? Is it actually possible, or am I just saying that, right? And I think one thing that a lot of you have in this can bucket that you can change in regards to other people, you think that you can change other people's decisions. And when we make our decisions, that's actually based on a lot of other things. And maybe that's what you missed in another person. Somebody here is much more lucid and self-driven, and they're not as open to suggestion like as you thought potentially. Like somebody here has a much stronger sense of self than you gave them credit for, right? Because when we make our decisions, and if you disrespected somebody's right to choose, or you tried to there could have been drinking, or like when this person had their guard down, or you could have tried to use spirituality to disarm somebody even, right? Somebody here has a much stronger sense of self. I think that's potentially one of the people involved. Anyways, you think that people's decisions, you can change those. And actually, I think you come by this pretty honestly. Again, this is a functioning dysfunction, because remember I said you guys are tactical. You really are. You're very smart. And I think you have more wins in that bucket than you have any right to having. So you think, right, that it's possible to change, because I think that you're very smart and you're used to getting what you want out of people, to be honest. I think that you're pretty good at it. I think you know where to kind of push, where to leave open. You kind of corral people with like an invisible hand, an invisible pressure, and certain strategies, right, to make somebody think that something was their idea or that it was their decision. Meanwhile, you're actually pushing them towards the direction that you want them to go the whole time, okay? That to me doesn't sound very moral, but you make your own decisions. I'm not here to involve myself other than to just, throw out, I have my own opinions about it too. And I'm just throwing it out there that, I'm hearing in terms of right? Can you change it? I think some of you, it's like you have lots of experience actually changing people's behavior. So you're like, yes, absolutely, you can. But you can't always, and you can't when you're dealing with a certain type of person that's like turned on, okay? And has a very strong sense of self. And I think potentially you didn't see that here in someone, especially if, for some of you, you're asking about a child, not for everybody. Some of you, it's like this could be another thing about the hidden variables. Everybody here potentially has this Page of Cups facade. I don't even know how to describe this. Like even yourself of like, I'm being sweet and my voice rose and active and I said I'm sorry, but like behind it you have your strategy here, or you did something that you're trying to hide, right? But you're and then you're like, oh, they were so rude, but they know what you did. For some of you, that's what it is, right? You could be dealing with a person that's a Page of Cups, or you thought that they were just a Page of Cups, young, immature, a pushover, a doormat, maybe literally a child, somebody easily malleable, and they're absolutely not that. This is the person who's actually the hidden powerhouse. They just treat people well. And then there could potentially be a third party here that is acting like they're your friend and that they're on side and that they just want to help you, but really they want to be with you or something. So actually, they're going to sabotage you, right? But they're acting like the Page of Cups, right? This is what I'm talking about. But anyways, back to changing people's behavior and if you can or can't. Like, yeah, I think that you have, but it's like you've changed a certain type of person's behavior and you haven't factored in who everybody is, right? So, but also I'm hearing wisdom always ask the question, just because you can, should you? Like, is it wise? Because when you're dealing with people, there's always a line that you should never cross. Because you might get what you want in the short term, but you might also cause irrevocable harm. This is empathy. This is what I'm talking about, not siding with evil. Because evil is selfish and doesn't give a fuck how it hurts other people and how many years they have to go to therapy, and, that maybe they wanted something different than you. Maybe they had a need for safety and you just bulldozed that because you were playing games. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing. Now, the other thing, I think what some of you have in the can't change bucket might be part of the obstacle here too, part of the karma, where your psychology is just saying, oh, well, this situation can't be fixed ever, right? But really, it's just because you don't want to do what you need to do. You don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to be honest. You don't want to confess to what was going on here. Even though I think for a lot of you, this person already knows something. That's like, some of you are confusing yourself in this situation because you think that you are slicker than you actually are. It's either that or you thought somebody here was stupider than they actually are. But you think that something remained hidden because of one of those or both of those variables. Does that make sense? But somebody here, I think, knows more than they're letting on. And you need to come clean about it. But you don't want to. Because maybe they don't know. And you don't want to give up your position of power. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? So like one of the things in the can't bucket is, oh, well, I can't fix it. I can't have a conversation with them because they won't listen to me. When in reality, this person won't have a conversation with you unless you're going to tell the truth. Like if you try to sidestep whatever this was that you did wrong, because you know what you did wrong here, even if you don't know that this person knows. And that's potentially what's causing the confusion here as well. But you can't admit to that, and you don't want to admit it to them. And you especially don't want to admit it to them if they don't know. But I think they know. Or at the very least, they know that enough. They know you're hiding something. Like this person's nobody's fool. Somebody here is just nobody's fool, right? They know that you have a hidden agenda, even if they don't know what it is. But I think a lot of these people actually do know. They saw something. Spirit was helping this person out. Or they just have wisdom. Or this person really knows a lot more about human behavior than they let on. Like, I'm telling you. So there was something here where, again, remember I said there was this period where you could interact in this space in order to remedy the situation? So if you tried to sidestep around it and you didn't address the truth directly, I really fucked up. Yeah, I was doing this. I did that. I'm sorry. I didn't consider you in this way or that way. Or I thought you knew this, or I didn't, and you just try to maneuver around it in order to continue to enact your own hidden agenda. This person's going to think you're manipulative. They're going to think that you're somebody that they need to move away from in order to be happy or in order to protect themselves, because they just don't want to deal with somebody who's going to maneuver around them. And that's not actually confusing. Of course people don't want to be around somebody that they think's maneuvering around them. Right? That puts people at risk. Emotionally, physically. You want to be around people you can trust. That's not surprising that people make decisions to keep themselves safe. So they don't even have to know what you did or what your hidden motive was. And here's the thing, okay? Because a lot of you are still saying, well, what do you mean? You don't want to, the worst off here in this group and the position you definitely don't want to be in is to be the only person in the room that doesn't have the truth about yourself. And I do think there's a small minority of you. Yeah, it's the minority, but it's a bigger group than you would imagine that doesn't have the truth about yourself. Because remember what I was saying about you shut off that internal line of inquiry, so you can't admit that you haven't actually lived up to your standards. The type of person that you say that you are, maybe a good person, a spiritual person, a skilled person, whatever it is, you didn't actually live up to that. And then because you couldn't admit it to yourself, you couldn't make the amends in the real world. And that you didn't account into your strategy here. That actually you needed to account for something in your own behavior. Something you tried to hide, something you were trying to strategize around. There's something here you needed to account for. You didn't fold that into your strategy. And I'm telling you, that was what tipped somebody off here. That something wasn't right. Or they saw something very directly that you didn't know they saw. So somebody left the situation in order to, find peace. And it put this situation in stasis, and now there's a blockage, right? Because they think potentially that somebody here has been manipulating. Maybe with another female here, or in order to get to them and their abundance in some way. It could be money. So so I think these are shared energies. Like everybody here is kind of leading with this Page of Cups energy. I'm sorry, but really behind it is Pluto in some way. And people are defensive, right? Some people are psychologically defensive because they can't own up to what it was they did in this situation and that other people actually do know. Some people are defensive because they've picked up on things, so they're actually physically defending themselves. Somebody here, I think for some of you, it's like you could have a friend here that actually is interested in you, sexually, or to have a romantic relationship with, and they can see that you like this other person, but you trusted them because you thought that they were just being altruistic and just wanting to help you out, but actually they had their own hidden motives in this situation, either towards the same person that you like, or towards yourself here. And they're defending themselves and their right to you, or their right to this other person. But everybody here has something hidden, okay? So I feel like this is a really hard one to kind of get through here. But this is definitely a karmic situation. You are learning a lesson. You're learning a lesson by interacting. The choices that you are making in this situation, this is kind of the choose your own adventure story, right? This is actually, it is an important situation in your life, like how you deal in this situation. This is a situation that could end any number of ways, depending on how you show up to this situation. So if you're confused about how things turned out here, look to your own behavior. And if you made things right here, or if you owned up to the truth of yourself, or if you did make some kind of accounting gesture, or maybe somebody else needed to. So this might be one you need to watch a couple of times. Yes. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that makes sense. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I have a Patreon. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, bye guys. So pile number 3, what messages do your guides have for you? Okay, a lot of messages there. I'm really hearing them. There's a lot of energy just around right now. I think there's a lot of spirit guide energy around you at this current time because you're sitting on a precipice. You're right on the verge of a major spiritual awakening, a major upgrade, where you start to see things differently and more like with a lighter energy, a more ephemeral kind of an energy, and it's going to retaint the way that you've kind of looked at things. So they're kind of wanting to prepare you a bit for, I'm hearing the word reckoning, because I think there's a catalyzing incident, okay? You've done something here in the past that I think you regretted, maybe even like a moment after you regretted, and maybe you're kind of carrying this burden. I think you didn't realize whatever this was in the past that you did. I don't think you realized the wrongness of it. And even if you did, it's like you didn't realize it in its like full capacity, in its full depth, okay? But now you have a new knowledge, you have a new perception. And if you don't now, then that's coming in for you, and that's going to help you to understand that. But they're wanting to prepare you for that. This is actually a very good thing. This is the way that you have to kind of like upgrade yourself, right? Because with the Emperor card, the Emperor is like an energy of like order and structure. And I think that there's maybe been a certain order and structure here in your life, and it might come from a father or like the paternal side of your family. And I think this structure, and I almost said struggle. So this struggle has to do with the denial of your emotional truth. And I think if you really kind of process this, and once you do, and keep in mind, this isn't about the cerebral answers, because I'm going to kind of tell you this, but that's a much different thing than you kind of, sussing all of this out and really getting into and feeling out the deep layers of whatever's going on inside of you, okay? But I think when you kind of distill this down to what the crux of it all, what started it all, was there was a denial of your emotional truth. Now, I think you may have had a situation here. I think it's with another person, but it could be with a job or an entity, but I think for most of you, this is with another person that you cared about very much, and you actually respected, and like you looked on very highly in some capacity. You looked at them in this Samaritan energy, which, it says refines your capacity to help you ignore those who you, or to help you, refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. You see this Samaritan energy in like whoever this is and whoever they were to you, because this could be, it could be a romantic relationship, but you know, it could be a parent, it could be, you know, I think this is a significant relationship. And again, there's a lot of admiration and respect for like this energy, right? But I feel like there could have been an argument, or there could have been a falling out. And again, I think you recognize that whatever this was, you know, was wrong now, like on your side of it, because you were denying your emotional truth. So you could have even been trying to lead with some kind of like debate energy or some kind of cerebral energy. I don't think you led with your emotions. Like your emotions were the strongest thing in the room, and that was the strongest data and information. That's actually where you were making a connection here with this person. But maybe again, there was this order established in place by this like emperor energy, and this could be the patriarchy, to be honest, because our whole society kind of gives us this message. But I think it was a significant male in your life that you were supposed to lock down. You're supposed to deny your emotional truth. And in doing that, I think scared in some way, things went way left here with this person. You could have wounded them, or I think they had to draw a boundary. Now, if they didn't do it, then spirit separated you. But I kind of think this person, what was happening is they were rejecting a codependent tape within you, a codependent narrative. And I almost said parent. So again, I think there's like, you learned this from watching your parents, or your parents instilled these kinds of things in you. And codependency comes from feeling insecure inside of ourselves. And I think your emotions, and maybe the depth of emotions that you were feeling for this person, made you feel scared, or it made you feel a type of way. And that's when you were like, well, this person, because this is Mars and Scorpio energy, and Scorpio can kind of look at things via strategy with that Mars energy, and it can look at things kind of like strategically, like, well, it's not tactical, it's not strategically sound for me to just put my heart on the table. That's scary, right? But when we do things when we're scared, that's called courage. That's called valor, okay? But I think a lot of us, like, we kind of get right up to that, we feel vulnerable. But instead flip that to like courage. I think I was telling you guys, my husband and I have been watching these little shorts of this tiny little trinket of a girl. She's like, I don't know, 4 maybe, but she's been snowboarding since she was like 2, I think. And there was this one clip my husband was telling me about the other day where the little girl says, "Oh, I'm scared." And her dad goes, "And what do we do when you're scared?" And she goes, "We do it scared." You know? So I feel like this has to, connecting with that heart energy. It's not the mushy gushy stuff, okay? It's connecting with our courage. It's connecting with our valor. And I feel like that's what this is kind of calling you up to connect with that heart space, not to feel like a fool for doing that, but instead connecting with that strength energy. Because again, I think that's where the energy kind of went wrong here with this person, where this person, what they weren't, I'm hearing they weren't rejecting you. Like if this went into an argument, they didn't have the truth because you weren't leading with the truth. And the truth that you needed to lead with was emotional. That's a type of truth. So I think, yeah, and there's an overemphasis on that cerebral energy with you, I think, where it's like you just kind of think about things and you think if you can say it in a cerebral way that you understand it and that you know it. But this person didn't have the truth about you because you weren't being open about your emotions. And I think it just rubbed them the wrong way, or you came off in a way that you didn't mean to, or you did something that you're deeply ashamed of. And all of it was because you were trying to deny that emotional truth. So I think you're grieving this process in this situation, but it's important to kind of dredge this stuff up and look at how we can't control things, you know? We have to admit that we can't control things, and sometimes it's better to just try, you know, at least I tried, you know? And just to know also, somebody who's going to make fun of you for like your emotional content, that's you having the truth about them, you know, and also maybe they're insecure, and maybe they, you know, who knows, like our brains, our psychology, like we've got to get in there ourselves and just kind of make sure that we're removing these blockages and obstacles to genuine connection, because you never really know why somebody's acting the way that they do, but I think this is all about you knowing that you're going to be fine either way. And there is something here about, look, because we have this crusader energy with the symbolism of the cross. Then we have the emperor, which is, again, that like structured, ordered energy. And then we have the 5 of Pentacles, which can be a sanctuary card, but it can also be left out in the cold card. But you have that structural image of like the church. And I think you're getting a new perspective on this, on all of these things. It's so rigid, right? Our values are great, but they're meant to be guiding lights, because the human experience can't really fit in boxes and in checklists. And I think, again, this is maybe like leading to black and white thinking, like this is always right and this is always wrong, instead of actually meeting your life as it's unfolding in front of you and kind of and paying attention to those things inside of you, inside of yourself. That's where another thing, I think that the worldview that you kind of grew up in, it was a right way and a wrong way, and you were never really taught that it's important actually to check in with yourself and figure out, like, you know, does this sit well with me? What are my emotions? Because your emotions were telling you something here about this person. And I think that there was a bit sorry, oh, I'm choking up. Oh yeah, that's that fifth chakra kind of an energy. But I think when you looked at it, this person, they have this kind of Samaritan energy. So it was kind of like, oh, you have what I have, or what I need. You know, it's a help me kind of an energy. But I do think there was an expectation, or there was like, even if it was a covert contract, right? We talk a lot about those, and it's worth looking up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But even if it was like a covert hidden expectation that this person was going to rescue you, and I just am noticing, you know, refines your capacity to help those you would prefer to ignore. Well, I think this person has ignored you, and you kind of look at this person and you think, well, they don't ignore anybody else, but all these other people are being respectful of this person's boundaries. They give this person the right to choose to interact with them or not, because this person, maybe they do have some kind of, you know, skill or something, but they need to be in charge of it. They can't just be, you know, bridled and like pushed into a direction and made to do something they don't feel called to do. You have to kind of, and in a way, I think this potentially is the rescuing that you need, because this person, I think they're rejecting a codependent narrative, or like you trying to build a relationship with them based on the wrong principles. They immediately kind of recognize that, you know what I mean? So this is actually the healing that you need, this space and distance. And it really is the tension here within you. It's drawing that attention to your emotional state. It can't be ignored. So you also might have a history of really, really intense emotions. And the reason that your emotions are so intense is it's trying to get your attention to go into that space. You're not just a person who's like, oh my gosh, like you're so intense all the time. I mean, you probably feel things actually very deeply, but maybe you've been taught to like put that down or fear that in yourself. But once you start dealing in that space, the tempest, the tempestuous nature is going to kind of calm down, because you're going to be much more dialed in to your emotions, and you can make the adjustments that you need for yourself, or you can express yourself before it gets to this kind of pressure cooker level. So all of this is calling your attention to your emotional space. And I'm hearing like becoming adept and well-versed in that, learning new skills, getting books, getting a journal, you know, learning how to navigate that space really well. And you may need to go through this. I think all this is designed to get you to turn inward and to connect with spirit as well, and not to rely on some kind of pre-made structure. They don't want you jumping from one pre-made structure to another. Okay, that's not the healing that you need. They're wanting you to go within. They're wanting you to make that connection with them, you know, with spirit. They're saying, talk to us. You know, pour it all out. Do your morning pages every single morning. And if you don't know, morning pages is like, you don't structure it at all. I feel like you're very structured people, even internally, and you're trying to, I'm picturing like horses in like the stalls, because a horse to me, it's like such a freedom energy. But it's like not everything is meant to just be in like kept in those little stalls. You got to let it out. You got to let it run, you know, like in order to just even honor its nature. There's something inside of you like that. In the morning pages, you don't think about punctuation. You don't think about if it makes sense or not. You don't even finish a sentence if you don't want to, you know. I've had entire days where I've just done like squiggle lines where I'm like, I can't even like formulate my thoughts, you know. It doesn't matter because you're the only one reading it. A real introduction, I think, to that chaotic feminine side. We're not, you know, the dichotomy between masculine and feminine order, that logos energy and the chaos energy. Isn't it funny that you're here on like the Chaos Witch channel, right? But that feminine principle, it is chaotic. And I'm hearing that Carl Jung quote, within every order there is a chaos, and within every chaos there is an order. And I think maybe you're afraid to get into this, like the more emotional sides of things, because you're like, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm going to get out there and I'm going to drown. You know, but the thing is, you kind of risk being overtaken by that when you don't familiarize yourself with it, especially because you're hearing the call. I'm hearing like this is all a calling. It's a wake up call. Yeah, and yeah, it's a calling, and it's almost the opposite of a siren's call. Like here with this person, with spirit in the mix here, I think maybe you wondered if this was a siren, like, or if this was a siren's call. Are you going to get like washed up here? But this person's calling you home. or like the experience with this person. It's calling you, in order for you to connect with this person's almost refusing to connect with you until you get healthy. Like until you go within, until you know yourself, until you you can come at them in the right way. That's not a siren. A siren would take advantage of you in a weakened state, okay? And I think maybe there has been some projection here where you're like, well, this person is argumentative, or they don't have the truth, or they have enough of the truth to know that you were they know that you were denied. They know that. They know enough to know that this isn't safe ground to build a relationship on, And they know that they should get their right to choose, and that somebody who doesn't want to honor that isn't a safe person to be around either. I'm not saying that you're doing those things necessarily. I'm reading for a lot of people here, so just take whatever is resonating for you. So yeah, this is a call into that in order to learn how to navigate it. And I think music might be maybe you really do love music, because you can find the beat, or music is, it is that chaos energy, but there is an order to it, it does you can feel the emotion in it, even if the lyrics don't necessarily make sense to you, or you know what I mean? It's I think you're meant to find the order, your own order within your own chaos, because only you can do it. And I'm hearing for this group, okay, and I just want to remind you that I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist, and I'm not saying anything, and I don't have a professional opinion. But what I'm getting is this, to me, it's almost a soul sickness, where it's you can't, at least this part of it, I'm not saying you might have other things going on, but it's that you have to there's no other way to deal with this part of it than to go within, than to kind of figure this out. There's no quick fix, to whatever this is. And you may need certain things to help with your comfort. But this is really calling you inward. And at first it's going to feel like being left out of the cold, but I'm hearing, once I was lost, but now I'm found. And I think you might realize you're going to have a great appreciation for this moment when you look back, and especially your higher self as it starts to emerge more and more in this lifetime and in many others, that this was actually the time that you felt most lost. This moment was the time that you were actually most found in your entire life, because you've just been denying this truth. And this is the reckoning. They're bringing it back to this is kind of they're calling it the Great Awakening for you. They're calling it the Great Reckoning, where there's something about this where you can't ignore it anymore. You can't hide. You can't ignore the reality of your truth. So you might feel like things are stagnating, and they might be in the external world, because this might be a group that wants things to move in the external world, and that's the only world that you honor and recognize. It's that masculine logos, and you want to structure everything. Well, this is actually... You're going to feel like things are stagnating in the external world, but on your internal world, they're actually moving, because they've been very stagnant, and things have been there has been no movement in that internal world, and definitely no light shown in there, and no intentional movement. So this is all leading to some kind of intentional movement. And I think I'm hearing this is very transcendent, and I'm also hearing the word transcendental. So I don't know if some of you want to do transcendental meditation, or look into that, or just maybe, I don't know. The word transcendental is really standing out to me. But I think that the other thing is, it's this card's all about transcending the self. And again, what if you didn't put yourself at the center of everything? What if it has nothing to I think you're taking, sorry if you can hear my cat. I can't tell which one that is, because yeah, and maybe that's it. I read with my cats, if you're new here. So the sun and the moon energy, and I couldn't even tell which one that was. So I think you're at that point where it's I don't know if that is my sun energy. What is my personality, or what's just my emotions? Because emotions are kind of weather, they come over the actual personality. So that's what you're doing, is what are my emotions and what are my actual personality? You kind of need to know these things, even if you're going to be able to step to this person, I think, and have a conversation where it's what you're talking about. And I think this is also making you the authority on yourself. But again, the other thing with this is it's not about you. I think that you're upset because you feel a certain way. And it's dominated the landscape. Well, I feel a certain way, so I'm justified. Those are those ego defense mechanisms. We all have them. I feel upset, so I feel justified doing X, Y, Z. But you're not justified and in doing this, and because it's not all about you. And I think that was kind of it. Is you didn't maybe think about that here. You just wanted the control, or you wanted to feel in control, and that means that somebody else needs to subjugate themselves. And I don't think this person was willing to do it. And that's what they're saying no to. They're saying I'm gonna have to be considered here, and I'm So I think you're learning how to hold yourself more lightly. It's not that you just completely become a doormat, but it's it shouldn't be the dominant energy in the room, because I think some of you have been doing that in order to manage your emotional space. because it's such a mystery to you and because it terrifies you and you don't know how to handle yourself when those things kind of come up. It's almost like, they say don't go to the grocery store hungry. You don't want to go to the grocery store hungry. So it's just like you never want to get involved. And this person may elicit emotions in you. I'm hearing you may have gotten yourself into relationships with people that you felt like were very controllable, or it would have been one extreme or the other. Because, those really troublesome types, the narcs and the sociopaths, they're very good at putting on a mask in order to make you think that you are. That's what I'm saying. If you are wondering if it's this person or another person that is like a siren or a problematic person, this person wasn't pretending to be anything. They actually are like, no, I will suffer whatever consequences from like separating myself out from this instead of trying to control the situation. But I think because you felt an emotion, you thought that they were trying to control you and they were trying to put that emotion in you. When really, I think they just handed you back your baggage and said, that's yours, you need to deal with it. You didn't ask for my help and you certainly didn't respect my boundaries. So no, I'm not going to help you and I'm not obligated to help you. I'm not your rescuer. We're not going to do the whole rescuer, victim, persecutor, And if this person handing you back your baggage made you say they're victimizing me, you need to kind of look at that again in yourself. So again, I'm thinking that you either got yourself into relationships with people that you could just easily control and you didn't probably feel much for. They couldn't elicit, an emotional response. You knew you had the control. Or you were fooled by somebody pretending to be subordinate to you or being controllable to you that actually wasn't. It was very slick at pulling the strings behind you, and actually, so there was just elements of control and what that really is you're just trying to not get it to this emotional space, that you're trying to avoid that. And my cats are meowing and it's like, I don't know why, because I don't know, this is like a weird time of the day for them to do that. They're just like wailing and it's really distracting. So I don't know, maybe some of you have like kids or it's distracting you here from this. I hope it's not distracting you guys. I'm going to go check on them in a second. Okay. But, yeah. So maybe you feel like you've played the fool, but all of this is because you're trying to avoid dealing in the space that you know that you need dealing in. So, if you're feeling kind of perturbed, then it's a good time to, again, go journal out your feelings, listen to music, go walk it out, exercise, find something that can start getting that. You don't necessarily have to go into your emotional space all cerebral. Okay. Figure out how to get it moving. Okay, I'm hearing that's a good start for you. Figure out how to turn on the tap and get a flow going in your emotional state, but also figure out how to stop it. Those are the two things that learn where your gas pedal is and learn where your brake pedal is. Learn how to, and I know for me, what helps me move my emotions is music, movement. Like whether it's, I like to go for a walk and listen to music, especially if I'm feeling like peeved or something. Yeah, like just exercise, just in general, journaling certain things out. Those kinds of things. And then for your brake pedal, just look up de-escalation techniques and just see if any of them like naturally draw your eye. Like, okay, well, I could do that. That seems to work for me. And don't forget that there are resources in our society, whether it's therapy or what's it called? Maybe DBT training, dialectical behavioral therapy. There's options, and you don't have to do all of this overnight. Okay. Like this is a journey, and be gentle with yourself. Practice having a relationship with yourself where you say, this is too much for me. And you kind of go, okay, I'm going to back off, but I'm going to come back to it whenever I feel ready. I'm hearing the first relationship you should have is with yourself. So make sure you're building that good relationship with yourself, and that way you can advocate for yourself. Another thing I think this group might do is in fights, I think you've seen people mimic certain behaviors, like, that, I don't know, you might call it like in therapy, right? So people who say, well, I just need a moment, and I'm going to move away. And you've seen that modeled, that comes from a healthy space, right? So those people have learned how to tap into themselves, and they really are, they're not feeling like they can continue on in the conversation without bringing it to a bad place. So they will say, okay, I need to step away. Because you're not connected with your inner self. I think you use those things as control tactics. You're like, well, so you'll wait for the argument to reach a fever pitch, and you're just pissed. Like you could absolutely continue with this, but you kind of throw it out there just to control and to hurt, to wound. using those kind of like more positive techniques, but because they're not linked to what you're actually needing on an emotional level, you're just throwing them out there as control tactics, because you don't understand this space. So that's what you think other people are doing, and they're just not. So not the healthy ones. And maybe some of you have been in some really wretched relationships, and you just need to get out of there, because you're going to keep reinforcing these negative habits. You may have needed to do that in order to just like dodge certain things coming at you. If you're in a relationship with somebody who is ill and who is not, like I'm talking about in that way, and psychologically, and they're not dealing with that, or they're not able to, yeah, you probably have had to protect yourself, but you need to get out of survival mode. So you need to get out of that situation. I just heard, I don't like the energy. I leave the situation. Like, it's not a battle. It's not, a battle to be won. Maybe that's a difference here between the two of you too. I don't like the energy. I leave the situation, because I'm not about to debase myself, and I'm not about to get myself in a situation where I have to practice and reinforce a bunch of bad habits, because I'm in charge of my own destiny. You're supposed to be kind of like more like this energy over here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, pile number 3. You're at the point of a huge awakening. If you can kind of tilt your energy and look at this through a different lens, this is an opportunity. This is an opening to see the world through a higher lens, a more refined lens. And what I mean by that is through a more nuanced lens, where things are not so black and white. I can feel your fear coming up here, like you're very afraid of those emotions. But I'm telling you, when you start to understand things in there, what it's going to do, it's going to drop that intensity. That is actually your answer to like bringing down that tempestuous nature, okay? And you have to do this part of it alone in terms of going in, and only you can kind of be in there and sort yourself out. But I just want to remind you that there are resources in our society, consensual resources, and not resources that you're going to just kind of dump on, but enter into not a covert contract, but a very above board contract to kind of deal with that space. Okay, that's what I have for you. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys.